Thank you very much. At nagbabalik po ang inyong programa, ang Aksyon Central Luzon Special Edition. At ngayon po, napakahalaga mong pag-uusapan natin. Noon may fiesta dito, meron nung isang kaganapan, yung pong Clark Aviation Conference. If you will remember, meron po tayong guests mula po sa Clark International Airport. Nandito si Mr. Wright the first time. And of course, we discussed about this aviation conference. Now that the aviation conference is over, the first one that was held, we're going to review what took place in that aviation conference. And for this reason, I have invited the president of the Clark Investors and Locators Association, Mr. Rene Banzon.
Hi, good evening.
Oh, pwede. Oh.
And I'm glad to be back here with the show.
Regulars, you two are becoming regulars, huh?
Para artista na kami.
Oh. And of course, we have the former president of SILA, now VP, and for sales and marketing of GGLC, Mr. Jeff Pradham.
It's good to be back.
Again, huh?
Yes.
So, what can you tell us? What is the report that you can give the people of Central Luzon about what took place in the Clark Aviation Conference?
Well, I would say that the first inaugural conference was a success.
Mm-hmm.
We got the message out on Clark. We dispelled some of the misconceptions on Clark, some of the misconceptions on NAIA
Right.
and the country's aviation infrastructure. And overall, I think we were able to send a clear private sector message to the government that we want Clark developed, we want it developed now, and basically it needs to be developed now to support the growth that's already taking place here. The private sector has put investments in place on the ground in the Philippines based on the understanding that the government was going to support those investments with further development of the airport, and so they'd like to see that now come to fruition.
Mr. Rene, what's your take on this?
Yeah, a lot of the talk that was generated out of the conference were from the stakeholders from the private sector. So I think that gives a very good testimony of what can really be done in Clark and what has our experience, for example, in working in Clark. So it's good that we had this avenue organized by Jeff.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. And avenue to let all these people know about it. And I think, as Jeff mentioned, it really, it really got to circulate very well. A lot of people talked about it, and you see all his press releases, and caught a lot of attention. So I think it was very good.
So the message was loud and clear.
I think the message was loud and clear, and I'd even go as far as saying the message was received.
Yes.
Not just the conference itself, it's a 2-day conference, but the press releases that followed the conference, the press releases that preceded the conference. I think it all got the attention of various stakeholders in Manila, various decision makers in Manila, and various government sector, agency heads in Manila, even up to the president. I think not only this conference, but even secondary follow-up conferences from this, like the Joint Foreign Chambers Arancata conference, also mentioned Clark, also mentioned the fact that it should be getting more attention in development. And I think all of this is maybe a snowball effect, if you will, that has reached the upper levels of government, and now you're starting to see some reaction from the government.
Let us get this straight. We don't want, Clark, we don't want to compete with NAIA, right? Is it like a competition stuff or complementation? More of a complementation?
It's absolutely a complementation, because the first thing that you have to keep in mind is that really there is no competition in the Philippines itself. The Philippines is competing with the rest of the world.
Right.
So when you look at Thailand and their
Yes.
airport aviation infrastructure, that's who the Philippines is competing against, or Hong Kong, or Vietnam, and all these other places. Within the Philippines, it's not a competition between Cebu or Davao or
Yes.
Manila. It's really how they complement each other to create a web of connectivity within the entire country. Because in the end, when a tourist comes to the Philippines, they don't care what airport they fly into. They care about their final destination and how do they get there. Is it
Right.
via Manila or via Clark, via Cebu? It doesn't matter. So in the end, it really helps the country as a whole, and it also helps in a variety of ways beyond tourism, even just from an economic perspective. I
Yes.
think one important factor that came out in the conference was the independent economic growth poll that is Clark. Clark is outside of Manila,
Yes.
so any development that takes place here is not going to add to the urban sprawl
Yes.
that you're already seeing, which is a problem in Manila. The infrastructure can't handle the growth outward of Manila. So the fact that you have an independent pole of growth at Clark and Subic in central Luzon, the SETEX, really can help to decongest and alleviate some of the infrastructure problems that you have in Manila today.
And affect some growth in the various areas of Central Luzon.
That's right. Bring some of that growth outward.
How do you see this affecting Tarlac province?
I think it's a boon for everybody,
Mhm.
not just Tarlac, but
Bulacan.
this- Bulacan,
Mhm.
Tarlac, Zambales,
Zambales area,
You know,
Nueva Ecija.
everywhere, because
Mhm.
the whole concept that we promoted in the conference, the keynote speaker promoted in the conference,
Mhm.
was this aerotropolis concept.
All right.
And that aerotropolis concept is not contained to just an airport complex.
Mhm.
So it's not the 645 hectares of Manila and Naiya.
Mhm.
It's not the 2,400 hectares of Clark International Airport.
Yeah.
It's the thousands of hectares that surround the airport complex that get developed and economic activity arise with the airport.
In terms of time, if we have really develop Clark as fast as we can, what more developments do you see coming, not only inside the Clark Freeport but outside of these areas that we have just mentioned?
Well, I was asked to present the private sector.
Will this trigger make it more faster?
It will. It will.
Mhm.
The private sector wish list that was presented at the
Mhm.
conference kind of discussed some of that, what you're talking about. And the gist of it was, if the government will put a clear indication of the path forward for Clark,
Mhm.
you will see further private sector investment. Tourism,
Yes.
hotels, restaurants, wakeboarding facilities, all the
Mhm.
various tourism activities, maturing of the tourism industry here in terms of the trekking and the packages, the offerings. But manufacturing sector,
Mhm.
MRO, Renee is with the largest MRO here
Right.
in the area. These guys have made a major investment, but I'm
Mhm.
sure they would accelerate it if they started to see further support
Mhm.
from the government. Other MROs, everybody has Clark on the radar.
Right.
It's not just who is here,
Mhm.
it's who's already looking at Clark.
Right.
Emirates, KLM, pick
Mhm.
FedEx, UPS,
Yes.
everybody's
Mhm.
been looking at Clark. The reality is, when are they going to pull the trigger and invest in Clark?
Mhm.
A lot of that is probably dictated by how fast the government wants to move and
Mhm.
how clear of an indication they give on what they're going to do for Clark. What is Clark going to be in the government?
So that's the negative thing that is happening right now.
Yeah, it's
The uncertainty.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's a lost opportunity
Mhm.
at this point. The uncertainty can create lost opportunities because I'll tell you, we meet with a lot of different groups just from GGLC's perspective of promoting the Freeport Zone, and everybody is very much sold on the Freeport Zone, very much sold on the airport and the future
Mhm.
of the airport and the Freeport Zone. But what they always say is when.
Yes.
Not if, but
Yes.
when.
Mhm.
And if the government comes
They know
forward-
it's coming, but
That's right.
when?
That's right. The government comes forward and says, "Here's our plan.
Yes.
Here's what we're doing. Time certain. Here's our investment money coming in." Then you'll see the private sector, who's already led this effort, get even more in front of it.
Mr. Rene, what can you add
it's
to
like
that?
a switch that the private sector is just waiting,
Mhm.
waiting for the government to announce whatever the direction is, they will follow.
Parang power projects, you switch lang,
Oo
no?
naman, di ba? Parang you hear from a lot of these big guys
Yes. Mhm.
just
Looking at
already thinking about the railway.
Mhm.
And then there was one time when a few years ago they were announcing giving a parcel of land to this big real estate company.
Mhm. Yes.
And all of a sudden, the others wanted to get in.
Right.
About
Mhm.
2 or 3 more, the biggest ones in Manila wanted to come in. It's just the direction. Just give the direction, and then this private sector automatically
Mhm.
coming in. It becomes you mentioned earlier about complementing or competing. It's
Yes.
really complementing Manila because it solves the problem of Manila.
Yes.
Manila more or less cannot grow much more than that. So the only way to increase capacity into the region
Yes.
is the alternate airport.
Mhm.
So that will help not only developing the communities outside of the airport, near the airport, but also to increase the capacity going into Manila.
Because if it's a gym, Manila is filled to the rafters, right?
Yes,
Right now?
exactly, Yeah.
Mhm.
They're thinking of ways to ask the airlines to cut down on flights. Imagine
Yes. Mhm.
the only airport
The only
asks
airport
airlines
doing
to cut
that.
down on flights.
Mhm.
It's a victim of its own success.
Right. Mhm.
It's not a bad thing that NAIA is at
Mhm.
capacity. It's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing for the country. But the reality is, in order to create further economic
Yes.
investment and further benefit for all of the country, not just for Manila.
Mhm.
That we need these alternative gateways. And the analogy I would say is the best analogy in the world to the Philippines aviation infrastructure is Washington, D.C. in the U.S.
Okay.
You have a single runway airport in the heart of Washington, D.C. called Reagan National Airport, right on the Potomac River in the heart of Washington, D.C. It's an international airport,
Mhm.
and it's the main airport for the city, but because of its one runway limitation,
Yes.
it really is only the high value.
Mhm.
You know, so it has about the same kind of capacity as NAIA, about
Mhm.
30 million passengers throughput per year, and it really can only accommodate so many aircraft movements per hour, per day, and per year. So at the end of the day, you want to get the highest value flights into
Right.
that airport.
Mhm.
And then you want to also bring your majority of your connectivity and your international flights and your domestic flights out of the main airport, which then becomes the one that has the infrastructure to support that. So Clark having the parallel runways, the larger land for the airport complex, it can support more.
Plus the communities that surround Clark, there's a lot of land available.
That's right.
Unlike Manila, it's, as we said, it's really
It's completely developed. I mean,
yes,
it's-
fully.
That's
Mhm.
fully developed, and there's not a lot of solutions there.
They're already reclaiming a lot of land.
That's right. And it's not just whether you can reclaim land. It really goes to urban development.
Mhm.
You know, some of these factors of what kind of city do you want to build?
Right.
Do you want to continue to have urban sprawl? Do you want to continue to have such a dense population center that
Mhm.
the infrastructure can't support it?
Do you see that as an advantage for Clark? Meaning you can really plan it if there are these announcements, these timelines that will be set up.
Yes, that's one of the
Will
biggest
the
advantages.
communities, the provinces surrounding Clark, will they do their own planning in order to face that in the future?
That's one of the things I hope to see, and that's one of the things if the government gets involved today
Mhm.
on a national level and says, here's our roadmap forward,
Yes.
now they can start to work with the individual LGUs in the
Mhm.
area, and instead of ad hoc reactionary plans that are never as good as a master plan up front, they can do that today. They can work with everybody, form a coalition, put together a master plan that all supports this growth that's going to happen here, rather than, oops, we wake up tomorrow and we're at 10 million passengers
Mhm.
and nobody planned for it. So we don't have
Yes.
the infrastructure, the roads, anything. So it's a much better solution if the government gets in front of it rather
Yes.
than just reacting to it.
And you, the private sector, that's the push that you're doing right now.
We'd like to see that. I think everybody would like to see
Yes.
that. I
Mhm.
mean, in the end, I think the private sector and the public sector want the same things,
Mhm.
which is more growth for
Yes.
the Philippines, increase in employment, increase in export,
Yes.
connectivity, all of those things. I
Mhm.
think both parties want the same thing. It's just, right now, I think the private sector is committed to Clark, is firm on what they believe.
They believe in Clark.
is. And
Clark
what it's
is it,
going to
right?
be. Yes, they believe that mantra. Clark is
Mhm.
it. But I think it's the public sector kind of needs to catch up to that.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and once they get on the same page, then they can move forward in unison, really.
Mhm. May sinabi kanina si Jeff, kayo, pag yung natuloy na yung anunsyo, sigurado na yung mismong negosyo nyo, yung,
Sa MRO.
oh,
MRO, by the way, is the
Maintenance
repair, overhaul facility
Yes.
of airlines. Actually, our market itself is it could be airlines not flying into the airport.
Yes.
We get clients who are
They just
flying
come here for
elsewhere, they
the-
come here for the maintenance.
yes.
But of course, if you have this airport that's successful, that's busy and everything,
Mhm.
your exposure and your potential clients increase so much.
Mhm.
So that generates more employment, more investment,
Right.
expansion.
And you have, you're working with several other firms, right?
Uh,
That just to help you as subcontractors
definitely.
and the like.
That's what I was saying. In fact, I wouldn't mind if there would be a cluster of MROs
Yes.
here.
Mhm.
Let's say they see the success of the Singapore Airlines MRO here.
Yes.
The others would start putting up, and
Mhm.
because of that, the vendors will start coming. It becomes a logistics and an
Right.
MRO hub, wherein
Mhm.
Everything you need is just there outside.
Mhm.
You don't need to ship something to Singapore to have it repaired or whatever. You don't need to get the parts abroad from Germany or whatever. They put up a small extension here. It becomes part of the aviation complex.
Yes.
and it becomes more attractive.
Mhm.
The more these things come up, the more people start looking at the target.
Yung ba sa labas, nakasabay ba sa atin? Yung
Ano sa-
iniisip natin ito, yung mga negosyo sa labas ng Freeport?
Oo naman, syempre,
Oo.
mga ano yan, mga, in fact,
Nag-aantay, di ba?
Marami kami mga subcontractors are outside.
Right.
We bring them out for this and that. Tapos suppliers also, for whatever, hardware or
Mhm.
supplies, all of these things, these are outside. In fact, pati overall of mga safety equipment,
Yes.
we do it outside. Pero
Even the schools, right? They're
oh,
making adjustments.
the schools are all of a sudden they're getting a lot of
Courses,
enrollees
new
for-
courses.
Oo, for aircraft maintenance related courses.
Yes, mhm.
Tapos they send to us for OJT and then
Yes.
we hire from them, we train them for 1 year and then yan, ano sila, employed sila sa amin for
Oo.
at least 5 years. Okay.
Mhm.
Parang generates
Yes.
automatically.
Yung multiplier, positive multiplier effect of
Oo.
this, right?
You know, actually I was also thinking, naisip ko lang, no, yung the safety issue also kasi if NAIA is, we like seeing NAIA grow and being successful and everything, but the safety issue also, we just
Mhm.
recently passed the ICAO
Mhm.
audit that came in, di ba? So now we're looking forward to getting the FAA bring us back to category 1.
Mhm.
Tapos the domestic carriers can start flying to the US, additional flights and everything, and then
Right.
in Europe. So, baka nga if they keep on leaving NAIA as is and then they try to expand it to, yung sabi mo nga, yung to the rafters ba?
Oo.
Term mo? Baka nga, bawiin na naman sa atin yung
Oh, tama.
certification of of safety.
Kasi ayaw rin nila yun, di ba? Yung mga
Oo, yun.
agencies na ganyan, right?
2008 na wala yan, tapos
Oo.
kailan natin nakuha, and then ayaw na mag-expand.
Mhm.
Di ba kailangan talaga look at the safety issue even for that purpose alone.
Well, the countries, of course, where these tourists are coming from, they want that. It's a primary concern for their citizens.
Yeah.
You know, there was a great comment that came up in the conference by the keynote speaker. He said, around the world, the hubs are getting hubbier.
Yes, hubby.
And it's exactly what Renee just mentioned.
Mhm.
He's here with Singapore Airlines MRO, Metrojet's here with their MRO,
Yes.
Asian Aerospace is here with their MRO, and then Dornier is here with their MRO.
Mhm.
But as more and more come in, you get better supply chain connections, you get better connectivity between basically the work that they're doing.
Mhm.
And as that happens now, Clark in the Philippines becomes a hub for MRO activities. So now when these international businesses, flight air carriers look at where are they going to get their MRO services done, I can go to Thailand, I can go to
Yes.
Hong Kong, I can
Mhm.
go to all these places. Oh, wait a minute, I can go to the Philippines, I can go to Clark.
Right.
And this goes back to that lost opportunity. If you look at it from a zero-sum perspective,
Mhm.
where it's either NAIA or Clark, and you can't have both, and if NAIA doesn't, if you're going to do something to NAIA, then it's going to benefit Clark, or you
Mhm.
can't have them both growing, you can only have one grow at the expense of the other, then you're going to miss out on this hubs getting hubbier,
Mhm.
and then you're going to miss out on the international community who will go to Thailand, because Thailand has a twin airport complex, twin airport
That's no
system.
longer something that is new, right? For
No.
countries having two airports.
It's the most common thing.
Common
around
thing
the world
nowadays.
now.
Mhm.
It's actually the Philippines is one of the few exceptions
Mhm.
to that trend. Around the world, in Asia, in Europe, in the Americas, everywhere in the world that you look now, every country, or not necessarily country, but most of the population centers within the country, the main population centers, will have a twin airport system to accommodate those populations.
The big boys in Manila, I mean the big businesses there, they don't they have room if something happens positive for Clark? Don't they have room to expand in the Clark area?
Of course.
Is that I think that's a fear for them right now,
It's
a parochial fear.
I was just gonna say, I'll maybe it's controversial to say it, but it's greed.
Mhm.
A lot of it comes down to greed, and like you said, a parochial kind of my interests first, so
Right.
over the interests of the country and the overall benefit of the country. And the reality is, Clark will not hurt Manila.
Yeah.
Clark will only help Manila. So
Mhm.
any business you have in Manila is going to be benefited by the fact that you're increasing the number of passengers who can access
Mhm.
the Philippine market and the Manila market through Clark.
Right.
You have the connectivity there with the NLEX,
Mhm.
so it's not a problem. It's really just people who say, no, we've got to have ours first. And unfortunately, yes, there's plenty of room, as you were mentioning.
Yes.
There's plenty of room at Clark to support any new investments.
Mhm.
If there's a company who wants to come up here and take land for real estate development, absolutely, there's more than enough space.
Right.
If there's companies who want to come up on the airport complex and put up some kind of complex or investment, they have the facilities there.
In fact, an LGU Mabalacat is readying some 3,000 hectares for that purpose.
That's right.
If we ran out of land here inside the Freeport, they have some 3,000 hectares ready. And I think they want to present that. So nag-agree kayo halos pareho yung sinasabi niyo ni Jeff dito, Mr. Rene.
Oh, sa akin Tagalog lang.
Tagalog lang, oh.
I apologize. I'm not talking in Tagalog.
No, basically, your points are the
I
same.
didn't know that we're only one of a few that has the one airport. I mean, you mentioned the other.
Yes.
They have two airport
Mm.
funds. Para yung divorce, ano tayo na lang meron.
Oh.
That's beside the point. Anyway, okay. What were we saying? Nakaka-distract.
Anyway, we're gonna have a break, okay? And after the break, we will pursue this discussion. This is very good. I'm sure those watching around Central Luzon will be very interested, especially those in the local communities surrounding the Clark Freeport. Babalik po kami, mga kaibigan.